Wait, I've got it now. Recording has started. Thank you. We're on go. Okay. Sorry. Guys, as I said to you, perhaps also something up front, and I know my students, I'm repeating myself, etc. You are who you are. What I mean by that, I'm 56 years old, guys. I ADHD, which means I struggle to focus on stuff, but I also have a lot of interests. I've got, if you had to look around my house, we're actually doing 2 renovations on the house. There's various projects on the go. I'm busy with research projects. I serve on a whole lot of research committees. I lecture new things every year. When I present my subjects, I don't just go and grab the same old subject and redo the same old textbook. I add new things. I want to make it exciting, etc. I overload myself. Every year, I think I'm going to get things done more quickly, more efficiently, and every year I tend to land up pretty much the same. Okay. I've said to you this before. You've got a and I think it's important here also, part of doing a master's, because there's a student I didn't reply to who, guys, we score students out the whose system who don't perform. And it's not malicious, it's not bad intention, but if you've, so for example, basically you've got a year to get your research proposal approved. It says 6 months, but in effect about a year to get your proposal approved, ethics clearance proposal approved, your ACC documents running and your study going. But we have people 2 years in the system, and if you haven't done it by 2 years, you're not going to perform, and it's just a huge drag on the supervisor. If I have to repeatedly give you feedback, it doesn't work, etc., then it's not going to work. But the thing that makes things work is butt on seat. That's what I learned. I'm not good at butt on seat. I'm busy with 101 things. As I say, and I'm quite quick to jump off, go and get distracted, etc. But you have to sit your bum on your seat. It's hard work. It's not like just overnight. Ongeziwe, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure if my question is relevant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Last year, Dr. Kari, I think we tried to present our topics to you, but it seems like we're too busy because I finished my proposal last year, December. So is it possible for you to review our topics, not just the whole concept of our topics, because I don't want to submit something and then it ends up that like my topic is not relevant or something.
Okay, I will.
This is what I'm scared of now.
No, I understand. I will talk about the topics that's really important. Okay, because we are starting to, and no, let's put it this way, I am starting to. The university puts out a whole lot of master theses that aren't worth the paper they're written on. No offense to the people involved, but we research the same old variables and they mean nothing. You know, like the research actually has got very little impact, if any whatsoever. We need to start making impact, guys, and the world is changing dramatically. So we need to, if you guys want to be relevant in the future, guys, you're going to need skills that make you relevant in the age of AI, guys. It's when you walk out, guys, I can honestly say to you, you know me, and maybe you differ, but I know my oats. I can write, I can do research. I'm not very good at publishing research because my personality and deadlines, etc. But yeah, I have developed continuously throughout my life, and that has kept me relevant to some or other degree. That's why I'm sitting in front of you today. I did my PhD at 52, 53. I completed my PhD, guys. It's not, I should have completed years ago, but again, perhaps coming back to this thing, I will look at topics if you ask me about your topic, etc., but I'm going to talk about them today. The more the point is, you've got to tell me why your topic is relevant. I can't really tell you, and I'll explain to you how to do that today. Perhaps that's the most important thing out the workshop that will hopefully emerge today. Guys, but to understand something about yourself, look up Myers-Briggs. You should have done it, or I used to do it with my 4th year advanced diploma or BTech students. Okay. What's called the Myers-Briggs test, or Myers-Briggs inventory. There's different sites, there's lots of them, they're not so important which one you take. But you do this test, it's not culturally specific, it's not judgmental, it's not telling you you are a nutcase or you've got some or other psychological disorder. So for example, I struggle with ADHD. That is it would be a psychological disorder because I struggle with my focus, etc. Myers-Briggs would say nothing about that. Okay, so it doesn't say you're anxious, you're depressed, you psychotic, whatever. What the Myers-Briggs does, if you do one of the tests, it puts you into one of 16 personality types. And if you don't agree with the type, you can have a look at the alternatives. It's not written in stone, and you fall on a continuum between extroverts and introverts. So the first letter is extrovert or introvert. Extrovert, I'm an extrovert, obviously, outgoing, loud, out there. I get my energy from people. That's why I like to see your cameras, because I can see your facial reactions. When we face-to-face in class, we can interact, etc. Okay. Introverts are more reserved, inner thinking, quieter people. Neither is right or wrong. We are on a scale of extroversion to introversion. You're not on one or the other. You're somewhere along that scale. So why I say, if you say you come up with, but I'm not really extrovert, then look at the opposite one with the introvert. The same thing, sensing, people who use their senses. We've got 5 senses, touch, taste, smell, what's the other senses? Help me. Touch, taste, smell. What's our 5 senses? God. Pardon, I can't remember what the 5 senses are. I'm gone. I need to retire. But your senses, your kinesthetic, your balance, but the information that your body gives you, black and white information, essentially. Okay. Intuition is your gut feeling. So I'm quite a strong N, and my intuition normally tells me. So you're going to say to me, I say to you at the beginning of the year, students who do a certain thing, okay, I've got proof of it in terms of past behavior. There's a HR, if you do, what's the recruitment technique that works with STAR situations, task, action, result. The best predictor of past performance or future performance is past performance. But also I work on intuition. Most cases, like I'll tell you, it's not going to work or it's going to work. So for example, I had a property I used to rent out. I never used to credit check the people. I used to look at them. My sense would tell me whether this person can afford the place or not, and how they conduct themselves, the type of car they rode, and doesn't mean if they drive a very smart car that they can afford it. Often they can't. It's just the things people say tell you. Same thing, ladies. If you out, I'm not sure what your, and guys too, but if let's say you're out with someone and you get an uncomfortable feeling from this person, go with that feeling. We are taught not to trust our intuition. We in fact, our intuition is slapped down as a child because, yeah, people are uncomfortable with it. But if your intuition tells you something, go with it. It's your semi-conscious or unconscious behavior talking, or unconscious mind talking to you. Okay, I'm going into a psychology lecture. But then thinking or feeling. So are you more cognitive thoughts, or are you more emotion-based? So often autistic people are more feeling-based, and scientific people in the sciences. Doesn't mean you can't think, but your emotions drive you stronger than your cognitive thoughts. And then the last one is judging or perception. Judging, matter settled, detailed, step-by-step, organized. Perception, open-ended, struggled with deadlines, bugger. Okay, sorry, someone said they can't access a link. I'm just going to create a link for them. Okay, I am extrovert, EN. Thinking and feeling, I'm somewhere in between. I'm probably a little bit more, I come up as an F, but I might be a T, and I'm very much a P. I struggle to finish with things, etc. I'm not good with deadlines, etc. Why is it important? It tells you what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. So it will give you an idea of what you need to focus on and what things are going to trip you up along the way. It is helpful to gain insight. Sorry, you can hear that I'm doing more than one thing at the same time. Sorry, I'm just trying to, someone sent me a message about joining the meeting, and okay, sorry, can't do more than one thing at the same time. Guys, the irony is I can't do more than one cognitive thing at the same time, but I can, for example, watch TV while I'm busy working on stuff, etc. But it involves a different part of my brain. Why I'm going here, guys, if you're going to do masters or doctorate, it's important to understand yourself. It's a tough journey. It's a lot of time, a lot of challenges, and it's good to have insights. And also, so for example, one of my characteristics is I always underestimate the amount of time and overestimate what I can achieve in a period of time. So I'm always thinking, oh, that won't take long. I'll do that quickly. I will do whatever. And often, like my wife says to me, if I say it'll take a week, she says, put 3 weeks aside for it. And she's probably right. So it tells me who I am. It's not a criticism. It's a positive test in the sense that it gives you strengths and weaknesses. It's also good. It will tell you, for example, if you're a partner and you're fighting, it's often about, so for instance, if you're a strong T and a strong F, or S and N can cause you to knock heads quite a bit. Okay, so what I'm saying is, before you embark on a master's journey, make sure that you're realistic about what you need to do. Okay, anything in life, guys, we all want to do things. Sometimes it's the right time in life. I can't say, guys, you know, like I don't have that many regrets in my life. I wish I had done some things earlier, but to a large extent, I did what I could when I could do it. Okay. So, guys, we've done research proposals before. Guys, and Simon, I assume you know you've done a research proposal, but it's basically a document where you convince other people that you've got a good research idea and you've got the capacity to conduct that research. That's what a research proposal or research concept paper is. It's a plan that describes your study. Now, if you haven't read, you don't know. Okay, you've done before and you're honest, perfect. Excellent. But important, you read, guys. You need to read. You need to understand the concepts. I've sat with students before, and my postgraduate students, like, give you feedback. You get frustrated with me, whatever. Again, guys, it's not. I've got no personal issue with anyone. Like, I've got no choice when I say to someone that, even students, I've had a number of students that I've sent on their way. I've said, no, you've run over the time. I'm not doing this anymore. It's for my benefit and for your benefit, because actually the sorry, I'm just the student who sent. So I'm just sending a student in the letter. A replied, okay. Guys, so, okay, where was I? It's a plan about your research. So it's a step-by-step outline of your research. And what is it? Okay, guys, your research concept paper, to an extent, but you may change it with your supervisor and refine it, etc. But your actual proposal is a contract. It's saying, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. This is why I'm going to do it. And this is what I need to do it. So it protects both you and the university, and essentially it ensures that you can deliver a degree of good quality. Guys, and again, some will be accepted from this workshop, guys, and I'm also not just talking to the 7 people that are here, because I'm recording the workshop, and it's to everyone. Some people will get accepted, some won't get accepted. It doesn't mean that if you're not accepted, it means that currently what you're producing doesn't meet the standard, but you can up your game. But yeah, it's a realistic assessment of where you are, but also of our capacities. Guys, now, I could show you this video. I'm not going to go through it, guys. It would be a bargain, but let me do this. If you go onto YouTube, and you guys should know about this. I've talked about, you've got Grad Coach, that has got a huge amount of information in it. You'll also know from my classes that I like old Jessica from Scribber. I can't even spell Scribber. There's Jessica. I dig old Jessica. But because, do you know why I dig her? Because she knows what she's talking about. She provides good, well-reasoned arguments. Guys, but the point is, you need to first go look at what you should be doing before you do it. So before you write a particular part of your proposal, make sure you understand. And when it gets to methodology parts, guys, you really need to understand, and you need to provide theory on why you're doing what you are doing. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can find my Oxford friend that I was. Oxford. What's her name? I can't remember what her. I'm terrible with names. They go in one ear, go out another ear for. Guys, and often, okay, so I can't even find my friend over here. What's her name? And I'd have to go through a whole lot of reels to find her. Okay, but the point over here, you've got a lack of resource. I'm not going to go and show you. I'm not, as I say, I could waste your time today, show you the proposal, but sit and go through the proposal, write a research proposal. The chap that talks here is also very effective, guys. It's worth sitting and listening to him and what he's done on it. Okay, let's go. The essential parts of your research proposal. The issue, what problem does your research address? Now, what benefit, why do you need to address that problem, and then the design. Okay, 3 components, but to me almost the most important, okay, I'm going to get to now. Okay, we'll come back to issue, but your research design and the benefits, key. It's basically why you're doing this and what you're going to do and why is it important, guys. It's not just doing some research. It's not just some random research or some random project that you do for whatever reason. It is, sorry, I've got the animals invading here. It's, guys, perhaps I can also put this out to you. Your master's and later your doctorate helps to establish you within an industry. So if you do something that's going to have relevance to industry, so you can go along and let's say I've done my doctorate on employment relations. I want to go into employment relations, you know, so lecture economics, employment relations, and on conflict resolution, and let's say in the mining industry, and I developed a model for conflict resolution within the mining industry that is based on the mining charter and takes into account various cultural diversities and nuances in South Africa, guys. Then I'm preparing myself for future employment. I'm making myself relevant. I've done a master's on quiet quitting and COVID. Completely irrelevant. I know that your lectures go on about quiet quitting, etc. It is a phenomenon, but actually quiet quitting isn't such a new phenomenon. It refers to organizational engagement. So just to show you again, I said how my mind works. Guys, if their requests pop up, please accept them into the meeting. Has a request popped up?
No pop-ups here.
Okay. As I'm not sure, sometimes it just drives me, yeah. So tech can be great, but it can also be, it's when you have different accounts and they fight against each other, and we've got the wonders of, never mind. Okay, where was I? Let me show you something over here. For example, why I'm saying about, because everyone, I've noticed that, if I can get the table, guys, because I used to lecture industrial psychology and HR specifically, but work. I can't remember what the concept was. I can lecture off a set of slides if I've got the key points. I know what the slide looks like, that I am nah. Okay, okay, and also, for example, organizational commitment and guys, it's over-researched. There's hundreds of studies with it. We pump out these things, UWC pumps, we pump them out, etc. But for example, quiet quitting. There's a diagram on the one hand, people who are highly involved, those who simply follow the rules, those who just going along with the flow, and those who leave the organization. It's just a redoing of an old concept. So what I'm saying to you is you want to make sure that you have a relevant study that puts you on the map and is relevant to the field's going to add something. Okay. So the outline, guys, you've got the template I've provided to you. Guys, just a point. You also don't have excuses these days. I know people are second language English speakers. They are, that your grammar isn't perfect, etc. But these days, guys, you've got all of these tools that work for us. They do like Grammarly, Word, Spell Checker, and there are also dead giveaways when you've used AI, even if you have cleansed it. Okay, guys, let's just go into the problem statement. That is the essence of what you're going to do. And like some people emailed me and said about a title, and said, well, can I do this? Why do you want to do it? So it's not about the title is of your research. The question is, what is the problem that you want to research? Now, I'm going to show you a couple of tools. Okay. Guys, when you search for articles, number one, forget any other search engines, use Google Scholar. Forget the other things. So I'm logged into CPUT. If you go into Google Scholar, all of these, that says what engines it is on, and it is available. So if it doesn't pop up next to it, then it isn't available through the CPUT library. It should work. See, I've got the journal article there, etc. Okay, so point number one. Now this one isn't available. Okay, so you'd have to purchase, and they're going to ask you some $15, non-member $33. Okay, a trick. Go into Google, straight Google, not Google Scholar now. put the title in of the article, and you will see that the person has published it at ResearchGate, and you can request the PDF from the author. So you can get the articles pretty much. There's very little that you can't get hold of, and you don't have to pay. Actually, CPUT library isn't badly resourced in this regard. Okay, but now, the question is, in the first place, you need to understand what you want to research. So you need to have read up about your topic. You need to have read fairly broadly textbooks, etc., about your topic. You can read, guys, even just example, guys, Wikipedia isn't the work of the devil. Wikipedia is actually more accurate than the Encyclopedia Britannica in most instances. Yes, you have these clowns out there who will say to you, yeah, but you know, like let's take Jacob Zuma's or Donald Trump's profile. I don't even know. Yeah. And people will bomb that and write on it, and they'll do whatever because it's controversial, things, etc. How Wikipedia works is that people add to a specific topic, and it is edited by other people in the field, and they will say whether it's enough, etc. It's not an absolute resource, but it often provides you a good outline on the topic. Okay, so but you want to okay, find a particular topic or a particular issue that you want to research. The one site that you can use is consensus.ai. Why are you giving me a hard time? Paid subscription, but even if you don't have a paid subscription, you can okay, there's site, consensus, similar sites. Okay, so site, consensus. Okay, let's open. Okay, you can do a free 7-day trial on the site one, and then the consensus also limits your inputs, etc. But let's say I'm interested now. I said, what are the latest developments in graduate using AI, and you ask it, and it will provide you with a link or a list of the latest research articles relating to your topic. See, but it comes up with assessment now, so it's not actually so let's graduate employment. So I'm going to change the, I'm interested in graduate employment. By the way, that is a topic that I'm interested in, just putting it out there. Okay. And these are all, they're actually talking about AI in jobs, so it's not really getting it. So actually there's a big gap in the market. So, and then you can look at, as I said, scholar.za, scholar.google, let's just say, and ask it for graduate tracking using AI, and you can give it a custom range and say up to 2025 and 2020, and it will give you the latest articles in that regard. Guys, you have to go read them, you have to go through them, get an idea of what you are talking about. Okay, so there's another one, keywords. Okay, so see, I'm just sign up with my Google account. Yes, they know. And if you're worried about sharing your information too late, they know about you already. No, site's asking me for credit card information. Okay, so go with Consensus. There are another number of other sites. I want to set up a web page. I haven't set it up with links to all the sites, etc. But this is just 2 examples of things that you could do. Another one. Okay, now the point is, if you're reading about something, you need to understand the theory that you're talking about. So a graduate tracking system. Then in your literature review, you would have to explain what graduate tracking systems are, where they've been used previously, or types used previously, then how AI can be used in graduate tracking systems. In other words, how AI can be used to track students once they have left the university. And then you would also have to specifically look at research that has been conducted within South Africa. So in that regard, you would want to go to just let me log into CPUTs library. Guys, we don't, I was saying to someone the other day, you know, actually, believe it or not, I've never been into the library at CPUTs. Probably fortunately, because someone stole my parking space from the library the other day, but let's not go there. What's the South African Journal database? Guys, this is the one. Okay, you can, Sabinet is the South African catalog, and you can look at, just go graduate tracking, and it will pop up the latest articles in South Africa and what has been done in South Africa. And it tends to be, tends to be books, and you can ask it. Okay, but you can also do that in Scholar. And you just say South Africa, and then it will pick up also articles that haven't necessarily picked up and it gives you the links. So guys, you've got these tools available to you. There's also another really useful tool, and it is called I can also see these are ancient. Where was I? Okay, guys, also what's important here, just a point over here. On the Google Scholar, it says how many times an article has been cited. And the more an article has been cited, the better the quality generally it is, but also see, like that one, cited by 634. In other words, authors have used them in their articles, etc. So they're more powerful. Let's go. Okay, so Paul Prinsloo is an author that I know. I met him at the Open University. I'm right, it is him. Let's try something over here. It may or may not work. So let's say we're interested in the work of Prinsloo. There's a site also called Connected Papers. There are other sites like this too, guys, but let's go with that one. And we want to, we put the title build a graph. So let's say you want to work on the okay. So now I've clicked on Prinsloo's one paper, and it will build a graph, and it will tell you all the papers around it that are related to it. So his work isn't that powerful. See, he's one, but it will tell you the papers around that that are connected to that paper or related to that paper. And it tells you the papers that came before it, after it, and related. And if you write onto the paper, it gives you a summary of the paper over there. So it tells you what the paper did. You don't have to go read it, etc. Okay, or you don't have to go get the whole paper before you download it for yourself if you want to use it. Okay, so it's a very powerful resource that's available to you. But, okay, let's go back to, we've been busy for, what's the time now? 10:01, it feels like we're busy. But okay, let's just go. So the problem statement is, what are we researching? And so I can go on to consensus and look at, is there a shortage of literature? But also, guys, I can go on to, so I'm interested in graduate tracking studies. In this instance, I want to write a proposal on graduate tracking studies. So, graduate tracking. So it prefers questions, but each article will make research recommendations. And you can then take the recommendations from a number of articles and use that to motivate your research. Graduate study, I'm asking recommendations for future research. So I'm actually, it's doing a lot of the work for me. So these studies, and it links you to the article, and it says where the current shortcomings are. So let's say data-driven decision-making, etc., biases in tracking, whatever you want to focus on, guys, it's telling you where the shortcomings are, and it's linking you to articles that have specifically pointed out the shortcomings. So therefore, you've got a justification within the literature to do the study, because I frequently get proposals that there is no literature on this, and then I go to Google Scholar and there's tons of literature on it. Guys, you cannot just say something doesn't exist and then therefore it doesn't exist. We do not live in a world, even though some would let us live it or pretend we live in it, where if we believe something, it becomes reality. It has to be supported by literature. So let me just do something. COVID, and guys, please don't go near COVID-19. It's so overgone. It's almost impossible to collect relevant data. And students says, oh no, there's nothing about quiet quitting. And look what I find here, dozens and dozens and dozens of articles. So you must say, if you say there isn't research on something, you need to prove it. So in other words, say what search engines you used and what came up or what didn't come up and what keywords you used to ascertain whether there is research in the field. But you need to also then, based on literature, guys, it doesn't matter what's happening in your organization. Perhaps another point of view, and the template is confusing in that regard. You are not motivating to do a study in your organization. You are motivating to do a study about an issue of which your organization is a possible data collection space that you can collect information about that issue in. So it's about the issue is your motivation. You're not organizational consultants. You're not motivating. It's got no relevance if you simply collect something about a specific organization. And yes, we do all these case studies, etc. But the problem with just if something's just a case study per se, is that it's only got relevance to that case. So it is not generalizable. Yes, if at master's level, you don't have to have samples that are generalizable to the larger population, but you need to, okay. Also, if you're choosing a topic, make sure that you can actually get access to the respondents straight up. Make sure that you will be able to get access and that you have relevant respondents from whom you can collect relevant data. So your problem statement is where you depart from, what you are researching and why you are conducting the research based on existing shortcomings in the literature, in the research, etc. Guys, let's take a break. I've talked, it's 10 past 10. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll start again at 20 past 10. Go grab something to drink, etc. Thank you. Any questions, sorry, before we break?
Nothing from my side, Dr. Kylie.
Okay, great. So let's 20 past, we'll start again. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a smoothie to get me through the things. Okay, so your problem statement is your essence, guys. And together with the problem statement, so the description of your brief and concise, you can't explain the advantages, guys. You can't say the advantages this will help to. It will help to better understand what needs to be done. It will close a particular gap in the research as identified by, etc. It clearly outlines the problem, but also that's importantly the current knowledge is why it's important to do this study. That's why I say go to consensus, use your tools that you've got available to identify the gaps in research. In fact, this is a crap problem statement. Okay, well, this one I wrote, many factors influence job satisfaction. However, little is known about how the adoption of automated HR practices impact on the job satisfaction of employees in the banking industry in South Africa, where these have been adopted extensively. Okay, so what you would need to do, for example, for this problem statement, you'd have to, okay, number one, you need to define automated HRs. And guys, perhaps in master's level, you'd only want to look at a specific automation of a specific practice or a number of practices, depending on how it's done. And then, guys, you'd also job satisfaction and how it's defined. So your literature review, once you've got this problem statement. So in the first place, you'd have to find your gaps in the literature where it's been studied overseas, but there's no South African studies on it, etc. And then, guys, when you'd want to define the key variables, your independent and your dependent variables in the study. And then when you get your literature review, for example, in this case, we would look at what automated HR practices are, what job satisfaction is, the link between current research on the link between automated practices, HR practices and job satisfaction. But also you need to have a conceptual model. In other words, whose model of job satisfaction are you going to be looking at, or whose model of technology adoption are you going to use as the basis of your study, because this will influence the instruments that you use to measure the different variables. In fact, it will influence also the definition of the variables, because everything in the social sciences is social constructs. There is no such thing as job satisfaction. You cannot walk out your front door. If I take you to anywhere and I send you out and I ask you, find me job satisfaction, there's no such concrete thing. There is a concrete substance known as glass, which also combines out of various chemical substances. So you can find physical object glass. You cannot find job satisfaction. What you can find is social constructs. In other words, people who've defined job satisfaction, and various theorists have done it in different ways, and that will lead you to your conceptual model. In other words, whose model are you basing your study on? Okay, so I've overlapped with my literature review here, but your literature review should be an integrated discussion. It needs to start with an introductory paragraph explaining what will be covered. So in this case, that we'd say we're doing this, this literature review will examine the concepts of job satisfaction, and first look at the automation of HR and the different factors involved in that. It will then look at job satisfaction and the various theories of or the various series of job satisfaction. It will then examine what research has been done to date on the correlations between job satisfaction and automated HR practices. And finally, it will examine what, together with what the state, then finally, it will look at the banking industry and the implementation of automated HR practices within the banking industry. So it's got 4 distinct sections. They are linked to one another. They got an introductory statement, and then you've got a conclusion that comes to how this all fits together. Okay, so your literature review is important, guys. So it goes from the broad, what the reader knows about job satisfaction, HR automation, then research about the relationship of the two, the current status within the banking industry, and so it funnels down from the general to the less known. So the last point is based on the research and what the lack of knowledge is. But the most important point is your literature review is not simply boof, 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 boof. And it's something that we struggle with. It's our doctoral students who write like that, and they paragraph, 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 paragraph. This study said conducted in that. Guys, study by Wadena found correlation between the two. You don't have to explain all the methodologies. You could explain a conduct in South Africa or in particular industry, but short, to the point, and what study supported this, who said this is a shortcoming that we need to examine, etc. Okay. The final point at the end, your conclusion of your literature review, is the purpose of the study. So it comes down to why you need to research this and why it's important. Okay, so for instance, the purpose of this study that you've got over here, that previous studies have shown that there's an important, while the literature is, there's limited studies on the correlation between job satisfaction and the implementation of HR practices. Previous studies have shown that there is some impact. To date, no studies have been conducted in South Africa and specifically in the banking industry in South Africa. And given that the banking industry is extensively implementing HR practices or automated HR practice, all of this referenced earlier, guys, your literature review is referenced with references in the end. It is important to study or to determine the impact of the implementation of HR practice, of automated HR practices on employee job satisfaction in the South African banking industry. Okay, so it's the foundation of your study. It's what your study is built on, and it contains a theoretical model. In other words, a theoretical conceptual model. What theory are you using to measure this? Because none of these things exist in their own. So it says, it basically tells the story using previous literature, and also it says what's already been covered so that you don't repeat it, why the study is important. Okay, where was I? What we said about it, your literature review must be based on academic references. In other words, edited journal articles and edited textbooks. I will share one more resource with you. Whether you use it or not, I need to just let me get something for you. Sorry. A useful Guys, I'm not saying this one. I cannot say, because it's all I'm saying is you can do a search on Telegram for dead library personal, and you may be able to find a number of useful textbooks, etc., that could help you understand your topic better. That's as far as I can go on that. But so the research question or the hypothesis comes down to the lack of knowledge on current academic articles, because the difference between internet and academic or non-academic articles is academic articles have been peer reviewed. So when I write for, say, the South African Journal for SAJPP, Journal for South African Journal for Human Resource Management, sorry. You submit an article, it gets sent to 2 peer reviewers who review the article, who identify shortcomings, whether it's publishable, whether the research has any value in it, etc. As opposed to the internet, anyone can say anything they like. Yeah. Okay. Now, your aim of your study, guys, this is important. Your aims can only be to collect data about your research problem, and your aims, for your aims, you should have a maximum of 2 or 3 aims, and they should, for each aim, you should be able to formulate a research question and a hypothesis, if you're doing quantitative research, where you can collect the data about the research aim. So in other words, you must keep your methodology in line or in mind. So if you mention a variable in your research aim, it must be part of your research problem that you've talked about. Don't introduce new variables over here. And also make sure that you're going to be able to measure those. So often people come along with studies, the impact of let's say they come along with a study like this one. One of the aims with this study, job satisfaction and automated HR practices. And then study with the aim, they come about the impact HR automated HR's impact on organizational performance. You haven't talked about organizational performance before. If you want to measure organizational performance, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to correlate a specific variable, especially within a smaller group, and link it to any form of organizational performance, because there's so many other intervening variables. Organizational performance actually is a variable you have to be very careful about measuring in the first place, or wanting to study in the first place, because it's not straightforward. And it's like saying drinking, say my study is the impact of smoothie drinking on emotional well-being, and then you want to ask the impact, then how smoothies impact on my overall performance, whatever that may be. There's so many other things that could intervene. So guys, be careful over here. Your aims, your objectives, your research questions, or your hypotheses need to be linked to one another, and they mustn't go beyond the stated research problem. That's why it's very important to state that research problem in essentially in a short paragraph of 1 or 2 sentences. Okay. Guys, what's literature over here? What's not? Policy documents are not literature in the sense that you can't make conclusions from them, but you may refer to policy documents, for example, if it relates to something that the organization, say in this instance, HR, there's a policy of implementing automated HR within the organization. Newspapers, you need to go back to the original research. No newspaper article is based on it's just a person's opinion, and often as a newspaper reports it, and we say newspaper or online news sources, they misconstrue the findings, etc., etc. Blogs, stay away. Anything dodgy, make sure that you can confirm the stats. So a couple of years ago, we had a student saying in a research proposal that, let me show you something. If I go to Google and average work in South Africa. Okay. So over here, 1.5% is the average rate, but you will find, so here, this statistic gets quoted quite extensively. 15% of South Africans miss work every day. Where they got that statistic from, no one knows. I actually did some research into it. Someone started with it. If there were 15% of people missing each day, that would mean 3 out of 20 employees at your organization were missing every single day. Just think of that. So if you've got 100 employees, on average, 15 of them would be on sick leave every single day of the year. It's utter rubbish, but it's on the net. You need to substantiate that which you are claiming. So these things can be useful to orientate yourself, to help you find deeper information, but you need reliable data. Okay. So literature review, why is it important? You have to understand the past, what's been done, the foundations of what you're talking about. Okay. I think I've said to you over there, I'll share these slides with you. Guys, we use Harvard referencing. I think I've shared Harvard referencing with you, but just let me write down in case I haven't shared Harvard referencing with you. So I'm going to share the slides. Guys, also, you no longer need to actually do referencing yourself. It's no longer a skill required of you. Most of the articles, for example, if you go to Google Scholar, you'll be able to download a Harvard reference. You still need to check it, guys, because sometimes they are incorrect. But you've also got various referencing tools that you can make use of. So if you go to the research, oh, I've just discovered something new in the library. You've got a research assistant over here. Let's I'm just going to go back to my previous one. I'm not sure what it's basically doing the same as that consensus is doing. It draws out sources for you. It's good to use a number of engines. It's basically giving you a consensus. But although they're not relevant articles, okay, but it's another tool that you can use. Where was I? Library, search. If I go into where it should be under, sorry, I'm not getting, but if you look at, going to go for books. No, it's under. It's supposed to be under. It's research tools, and it's. I'm not seeing. Okay. Guys, I actually found using the Google Scholar, but if you go to Mendeley or you've got Mendeley Reference Manager, it's a free tool, or you can use EndNote. They're both referencing tools, basically, but make sure your referencing is correct and you reference everything that you say. Do not make claims that are unsubstantiated. That's really the important, that's the point of science, guys. You can't claim something. It's like that 15% stats. It's absolute rubbish. It doesn't exist. But so a student had used it quite extensively, and then using dodgy sources, as opposed to, for example, Stats SA or some other or research that had been conducted in the field. Oh, there you go, Mendeley and EndNote. Okay, guys, plagiarism. Let's just get a couple of things out the way. You must reference. You must always identify the source. Putting it in your own words doesn't make it your own. You should reference things. I've provided you with a Turnitin link, and that picks up. But you need to put your work through Turnitin before you submit it, significantly before, guys, because the whole point of Turnitin is to help you identify sections within your work that is similar or very similar to an original source. It often doesn't identify the correct original source. It identifies a source that is copied from the source that you used, for example, but bottom line is not in your own words. Okay, again, we've got tools here. So one of the most useful tools is what I'm thinking, not Grammarly, or Grammarly can, but what's the one that you put things, what's my favorite tool? Okay, guys, Grammarly checks your grammar. It has various tools, including AI checkers, etc. It think I've signed into the wrong account, but anyhow. Okay. Okay, it's got, so you get a free plan for, but anyhow, let's just stay out of it because I'm getting myself into trouble. Quillbot is the one I wanted to say. And students often, Quillbot will paraphrase something for you. So if it's got an AI detector, it's got a paraphraser, and so let's say I find a thing, you paste the text in, it puts it in, it rephrases it, guys. But now you get people who say, yeah, the AI detection is showing up Quillbot. Now, Quillbot only shows up AI that's been paraphrased to hide the AI usage. But let's get the elephant out the room or let's address the elephant in the room in that regard. There is tons of AI out there. AI can write a huge amount for you. I can't necessarily detect it accurately. I can see it in many instances. The most obvious way that I see AI, and I failed a number of theses because of that. I've rejected academic articles based on AI usage. And the most obvious one when it comes to postgraduate students is that the stuff doesn't link together. The statements tend to be rather broad, etc. When I check the sources, one or two of them are fake sources. There's certain keywords that are often used. It phrases things in a particular way. So even if I can't see, I can see the AI usage. But let's face it, there is so much AI out there. The latest is the Chinese search engine DeepSeek, which basically outperforms ChatGPT. We can ask it to do whatever, but if you're going to use AI, ask it for suggested outlines, ask it for what I should cover in something, ask it for example, if that's my research problem, what are the sections that I should address in my literature review, etc. Do not use it to generate the content of your research proposal. It will come out. There's two problems with that. Number one, you get bust with it. It's my Grammarly that's come in. Okay. But number two, okay, so yes, you can do it now. And let's say there's people writing their theses that have gone through a number of university systems that have got extensive AI in them, largely because the people who marked them didn't know what they were looking at. I failed a MBA thesis the other day. Started off, looked really well, got into the thesis, AI generated. I can see the person. The problem is you literally getting someone else to do your job for you, and you don't actually know what they've done, and it tends not to hold together, etc. But the other thing is, so now let's say hypothetically you've got through the process, you're cleverer than me, you've used the right prompts, whatever. You go out, you get past your supervisor as well, you publish, you walk across the carpet. A year down the line, someone's developed a better AI checker. They run all the theses through that. And Bob's your auntie. You minus a degree and probably minus a job because everyone's going to say you're a cheater, etc. But if you've got the job, you don't actually know what you're doing. guys, the reality is the problem with, or the challenge with AI is if we use it too extensively, we don't learn. You learn through doing. So, yes, I grew up in a different age. So I've written, in fact, I started writing before I had a computer to assist me with it. But I've written and I've had to paraphrase stuff myself. I've had to find stuff myself. I've had to put it all, make sense of it. But I've learned through that process. So, yeah. So if you, I know I'm bragging now, but all of those books in the back there are my books over there, or various editions of books that I've written or contributed to. But all of those I've learned from. But if I get AI to write something for me, I learn nothing. It's literally like previously you got someone from a degree mill to write an assignment. It's like we've got students who pass through the system at CPUT. Some of the students in the 5th year class could not write assignments properly. How did they get that far? Most of them didn't use AI to get there, because AI only really came in 2000, end of 2022, 23. End of 2022. But students bought assignments, copied, whatever. Yeah. And then they get into the workplace. Well, I've got a master's degree because my master's degree opens doors for me, etc. And then you don't know what you're doing. You know, like the BS can only travel so far. So, friendly warning, don't use AI generated content. Okay. About it. Sorry, things are popping up on my screen as we're talking. Guys, I'm not, like I say, it's not my interest. I'm not out to get anyone, whatever. If you do something, I bust you for it. It's basically you who carries the consequences. Last year, bust a whole lot of students using AI. Students doubled down on the usage, etc. in my postgraduate class. You can force things through, etc. But at the end of the day, sooner or later, you're going to come short. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Okay. And also, guys, if you've done something, you bust for it, then it damages a trust relationship in the long run in a lot of places. So, yeah, that is plagiarism. You handing something in, or someone else's work in, that you're claiming to be your own work. So don't. Okay. So Turnitin's also got an AI checker, but none of them are 100% accurate. You don't have to be a genius to know that. Guys, there's a video on how to use Turnitin. Read it, but the highlighted sections, reduce the highlighted sections, put in your own words, make sure it all fits together, etc. Now, this is where students really come short. First place, your literature review is critical. So it's got to provide the foundation. You've got to know what you're talking about. I mean, I was sitting with a student who had been registered in the system for 2 years, and we actually sat down and had a conversation, but I said, but actually, this is what you want to research. You don't actually know what you want to research about. You don't understand your concepts. You haven't read broadly enough. So, yeah, okay. Now, I would suggest, for example, if you still don't know what the different things are over here, okay. So your paradigm is so there's a guy, Mark Saunders. I use him in the, you know, or know that I use him in the 5th year class. did I want to use this one? Doesn't really matter. Okay. Basically, guys, your paradigm is how you review the world and how you view reality. So on positivism and realism is on the one side that there's an objective reality, we can collect data about it, we can make deductions from large amounts of data, we bring it down to smaller amounts because there's an objective reality out there. On the other side, interpretivism is that reality is subjective, it's dependent on the individual, that how everyone has a different experience in life. Everyone's individual experience is important. So if we are saying, let's say the research problem about employee morale. So there's a lot of objective, standardized tests that have been used to measure morale. There's a whole number of dimensions. It's a well-established construct. The implementation of HR or AI, it's also quite well established, etc. But we might be interested on the individual impact and understanding on a deeper level, etc. So it would depend on where you stand with it. So your paradigm is, from the one hand, positivist, black and white, numbers, quantitative. The other side is interpretive, qualitative, in-depth information, broad understanding. But we also get something between, which is pragmatism, that's saying that, yes, there is objective reality, but we also have subjective interpretations thereof. Okay, so bottom line is then it comes down to, will we use inductive or deductive reasoning? So it's deductive is lots of information. We then use statistics and come to we have hypotheses, we test them, we come to a conclusion based on probability. Inductive is we make from the specific, we make broad inductions to the general and how people's experiences are, etc. So statistics, qualitative experiences over here. So our methodology is over here. What are we going to use? Experiments, surveys, case studies. So case study can be combined with a survey, for example. Action research is where we build on and improve. Grounded theory, essentially where we develop theory. Ethnography is where we understand the specific people's experience, their understanding their life experience, but also their worldview. And then archival research, where we use existing data and use it for a new purpose. But we can also, guys, between this, you can do, the time frame is also important. So your time horizons, okay, perhaps just me. So are you going to use one method, mixed methods, or multiple methods? We tend to claim, guys, I'm saying up to you up front, stay away from mixed methods, because you actually don't know what you're talking about when it comes to mixed method. Mixed method means that I do an in-depth qualitative study and I do an in-depth quantitative study, and we look at how these two support each other or contradict each other. A mixed method study is not a questionnaire where some are open-ended questions, etc. That's not even vaguely mixed method. That is a mono method where you use a survey with some open-ended questions on it. Now, are you doing cross-sectional research? In other words, you collect data at one stage and you collect it from people of different ages or people at different levels of employment, or across different organizations, or do you do it longitudinally, so you collect information over a period of time? So, for example, I did a longitudinal study for my doctoral degree where I did a survey in the beginning to measure certain characteristics, and then we did a semi-structured interview, which basically falls under the survey method, as well a year later, to determine whether people were employed and what type of employment they had, etc. Then, so the methods, then your data collection tools need to go back to your research questions, your aims and objectives. They need to collect data on your independent and dependent variables. You need data on both of those variables. You need objective measures. If you're doing qualitative research, you need to, if you're using semi-structured interviews, your interview needs to clearly outline where you're measuring what variable or what construct or whatever that you are doing your research on. And those instruments need to link back to your theoretical model. So if we're doing the study over here on so let's just stick with this one for now. So our independent variable is automated HR practices, and our dependent variable is job satisfaction. So how are we going to measure? What measure of automated HR practices? How can we say that these people have experienced automated HR practices? If we're doing a survey, we need a survey of the implementation of HR practices within the organization. And then job satisfaction. I'm just going to okay. I've just pulled up quickly on it, but you could do based on Maslow's, the degrees that his needs are being fulfilled, Hasbach's hygiene factors versus his motivational factor, the job characteristics model, dispositional approach, etc. But your instrument needs to align with the theoretical model that you have adopted. And in your literature review, when you look at job satisfaction, you need to look at the different models and motivate which one you're selecting for your study. And then your research instrument needs to be linked to or based on that model. That is very important. So that's that so-called golden thread that everything goes through. I've got the onion in here, and I'm going to. Guys, also be realistic about your study. Will I be able to collect the data within a reasonable period of time? Do I have access to my research population? Will I be able to get the instruments that I want to use? You're not allowed to use psychometric instruments. That's a no-no. The industrial psychology, what's the guy's called? South African Board for anyhow, the Health Professions Council and the no, not so, but anyhow, so they're out. You're not allowed. You have to be a psychometrist under the supervision of a psychologist to use psychometric instruments per se. So you need to keep in mind how you're going to be measuring this, or the variables that are in your research. One thing that is helpful there is to go back to your the articles that you've read and look at what instruments they've used previously, etc., within their studies. And yes, you get article summarizes, no problem. No one, very seldom, I read 500 different sources for my PhD. I consulted all of those sources, but I read very few of them from end to end at every last word. But it is helpful to read through the article and get an understanding of how they built their arguments, how they justified the different parts of their methodology, and what instruments they used. Okay. Your timeline, realistically, guys, most students underestimate the amount of time. Very few students can complete their studies within the assigned timeline. But if you've got a good proposal, it makes things a lot easier. You know what you're doing, you get the job done, and then you run with it. Okay, the outcomes. Guys, you're not going to change the world. What will the outcomes be? So in the case of this, you will have a understanding of whether HR practices impact on employee morale in the banking industry. So bottom line, you must be able to measure them. You must be able to operationalize. They're called operational definitions. In other words, they are measurable. And if it's qualitative, more in-depth understanding of the subject, etc., don't claim things that you can't do. What essentially, why is this data important? Okay, guys, make sure you give yourself enough time to do it properly, revise, edit, write properly, etc. Okay. I'm just going to focus on a couple of golden thread, the link from your research problem in the beginning, your introduction, your research problem, your literature to your methodology, logical flow. Making claims that are not substantiated. In other words, not reference claims that are not based on scientific literature. So making claims that you can't. So also, guys, don't make claims about organizations. Oh, I know my organization is autocratic. Yes, you may experience that way, but you can't. You can only measure the type of management that is exercised within an organization. You can't make broad, sweeping claims based on your knowledge. Okay. Let's take another 10-minute break, and then I'm going to go over the research concept paper and then and the evaluation criteria. I'll just spend about, so let's take 10 minutes, 20 past, we'll start again, and then I'll spend about 20 minutes on the research program. Yes, I would. Simon, so you spoke about rightful. I don't know rightful, but it's the same pretty much as, let's see, you're giving me, there are so many tools these days, guys. Yeah, it's an academic, helps you to write it better. But get your own stuff first, guys. And the point is also you need to understand what you're talking about. It is really important, and it's not meant as a disrespectful comment or a I don't know what to say. You need to understand the field that you're talking about, and the only way you really understand is by reading. Okay, guys, 20 past. We'll start 22 minutes past. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then I'll go over the research concept paper and what you need to do. Just give you a few tips there. Okay. Okay. I've had the points up there about improving your odds, etc., being accepted. Mentioned it depends on, number one, the quality of your proposal, but also number two, the relevance of your topic, and number three, that we've got supervisory capacity so in other words, we've got enough people to supervise the people that are selected, which is becoming a challenge. Okay. Perhaps I want to point out another thing over here. Guys, proposal shouldn't have images in. If you do, the only image that you could have, the only diagram would be your conceptual model, and then it's explained. But otherwise, you don't put diagrams of theoretical models like your, so for instance, you've got Maslow or Herzberg or whatever. You're not writing a textbook, etc. You're writing a critical analysis of the literature. Don't have mistakes, etc. So, okay. Let's just quickly grab the proposals over here. Okay, I'm just taking the one we uploaded. Actually, it's still from Prof. Rist's days. It outlines what you should have and the amount of content that you should have for each section, etc. Perhaps a little bit more important over here. Okay, you're all master's degree students. Obviously the details on the first page, but your topic is incredibly important, guys. And you can't, your topic, as I said, you asked me about titles, and when I said to you, you need to motivate why that title is relevant. You can't really ask me, is it relevant? You need to prove that it's relevant based on gaps in the research, etc. So as I showed you in the beginning, by going to consensus, Google Scholar articles, etc. Your introduction and background, okay. Why is this an issue? Why are you, what's the general situation in this regard? So your introduction and background and your problem statements are closely linked to one another, because your introduction and background provides the background. For example, if we are looking at HR automation and employee engagement, that the background would be about the degree to which HR automation is now becoming rampant within organizations, referenced, but specifically within the banking industry in South Africa, referenced, but also that it has an impact on employee morale and motivation, referenced. So you're providing background on why this is an issue and it needs to be researched. Okay, no problem, Daniela. No stress. Where you talk about your organization, If the organization is the context in which you're conducting the research. So for instance, let's say you're doing in the bank, you work for a large bank, you don't name the bank, but large bank in Cape Town that has implemented HR automation extensively, and therefore it is a problem. And you could also mention that perhaps if you've got information about annual employee engagement surveys or organizational culture surveys that have shown that there's been a drop-off, but you can't make the correlation, otherwise there's no point in your study. You can't make the correlation between the 2 points. Here you're just telling about why the organization is appropriate to examine the theoretical problem that you're looking at. Okay. Then you outline your problem and how it's experienced in practice, etc. So here you outline that it's the way this is structured. Your introduction and your problem statement overlap to a large extent, but your problem statement needs to be very specific, needs to state in 1 or 2 sentences exactly what you're researching, why you research it, and then the explanation of the problem is you refer to the journal articles, etc., that have the limited research on it, and where it's been recommended that you conduct research in this area. Your research questions is the specific question. So in this instance is, does employee morale, what did we say, morale, or what is the statement over there? What's my research problem? Sorry, job satisfaction. Your question is, does job satisfaction correlate with the implementation of automated HR practices? That's your question. The aims then would be to determine the correlation between aim number 1 would be to determine the extent or the perceptions of the implementation of HR practices in the organization, or the employee's experience of HR practices within the organization. Aim number 2 would be to measure the morale of employees in the organization, so the same employees. And the third aim would be to correlate employee morale with HR experiences or perceptions of automated HR implementation. Okay, so then the literature, as you said, introductory paragraph, explain what this literature review is about. So this literature review examines, number 1, the HR automated HR practices and the implementation of thereof. Secondly, employee morale and different theories of employee morale. Thirdly, current literature on employee morale and or the correlation between employee morale and HR automation. Then fourthly, the context of the banking industry and HR or automated HR implementation. And then lastly, presents a conceptual model. So you then taken a theoretical model of whatever model you took for employee morale. Let's say you've taken Hashbach's model, where you examine what's it, hygiene and motivational factors, and how these, so that's you've got hashbacks, hygiene and motivational factors, and how these correlate with someone else's theory of technological implementation within the organization. Ungazewe, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Kylie. I posted something on the chat box.
Okay. Okay, no, Western Cape. So, but so the utility of artificial intelligence in strategic human resource management roles at the Western Cape provincial government. Okay, what is the actual? So my question over there would be, so the title. Okay, so you need your title should state the research problem that you are examining together with the context. So my question over there would be utility of artificial intelligence in human resource management roles. What do you actually mean by the utility of artificial intelligence? Impact of artificial intelligence, or are you looking at how they've been replaced or how they contribute to? I don't really know what your research is. In a large in a government department in the Western Cape, in a selected government department in the West, in a selected Western Cape government department would be the end over there. So the question is, so the research, the point that I've got over there in terms of, and it's relevant to everyone in the class here, the utility of what actually are you asking? The impact, okay, impact possible, but yeah, then you would have to, yeah, so impact of HR, but then you'd have to specify on what aspects of the roles, etc. Okay. But again, the underlying research that based on it needs to be on a solid basis of previous research or what's been done before to give you an idea of how these things are examined. Okay. Your methodology, very important. How are you going to research this? Quantitative, qualitative, why? And then your population, in this case, your population is that government department. So then you need to describe that population and why is it appropriate to conduct the research or study within that population. Then your sampling technique, you need to explain whether you're using probability or non-probability sampling. And in most instances, you guys are using non-probability sampling because it's a random sample means that if you're using probability sampling, everyone has exactly the same chance of being selected in an organization. And that means that you've done, you've got a list of everyone in an organization, you only approach certain group of people. It can't be a general thing that you send out and expect people to reply, etc. So you need to make sure that you understand the difference between probability and non-probability sampling and what sampling you're using. Then your research instruments is critical because your research problem, so I'm struggling here, what artificial intelligence? So what are you actually measuring? What's your utility? So the implementation of artificial intelligence, and then what aspects? So you need to define your dependent and independent variables very carefully. And then your research instruments, your data collection instruments, need to collect data about those two variables or more. So you can have a number of independent variables and a dependent variable, but everything, there needs to be the data collected on everything. Okay. So it's important that you motivate what you're going to use and why. And using using a questionnaire or using a open-ended survey, tell me what questionnaire and why you're going to use that questionnaire. So who survey, etc. Guys, that's another one thing we don't do at a lot of UOTs is actually looking at psychometric properties of instruments. By simply putting questions in a questionnaire doesn't mean that you actually are measuring particular variables. It's a lot more complex than that. So it's much better to use existing instruments, especially those that have been previously used in the South African context. But let's say they aren't in this context. They've been used in previous studies, great. But if they've been used elsewhere, can adapt them for, or not even necessarily adapt, use, and then look at how well they work. Ethical considerations. Guys, again, your research methodology, go to a research methodology textbook, explain the concept, and then explain. So reference the concept, so what paradigm you're using, reference why you're using, so explain why you're using what you, qualitative methodology, explain it. If you're using survey research, explain it, and then explain what you're doing in your study. Again, critical. Then your ethical considerations. What are the key ethical, so go to the research, the literature on research ethics, and what are the key ethical issues related to the particular methodology that you are selecting. So for example, informed consent, no coercion, no harm to respondents, transparency, etc., and how are you going to achieve it in your study. So again, all of these literature with application. Your reference list, vice versa, it says for the literature review at least 20 sources, but you also have to have sources for your research methodology, for your ethical considerations, etc. Those are above the literature review sources. Says better the last 5 years. The articles that you're basing your study on, the motivation for your study needs to be recent literature. But for example, the core theories. So if we're talking about if I'm talking about job satisfaction, the seminal thinkers on job satisfaction are considerably older than in the last 5 years. So when you're doing your theory and explaining the different theories, you need to go back to their work, and that may be considerably older. But when you're referring to research, it should be, there may be some very important research studies done that are further than 5 years back, but you need to, in motivating your study, refer to recent research articles. And if nothing's been done on something and it was researched a lot in the past, then why would you, like it sort of ran out of steam, and might tell you something about it too. Okay, so Harvard research method, and then keywords, 5 keywords in alphabetical order. And then your plagiarism, but also, guys, if I smell AI, it's not going to go down well. And I'm not going to go into a debate about whether you think it was fair or not. If we've identified it, it won't go through the system. And it will be, to a large extent, I don't even need to use AI. It won't make logical sense sections don't link with each other, etc. It will be as a byproduct of you using AI. Okay, so it needs to be written properly, good academic writing, but yeah, on one level, not too good academic writing. That's also a giveaway. Neat, not errors, but analysis. You need to analyze the literature, not just list it, and then you need to reason, make judgments based on the literature. So you need to draw it together and explain what it means. And then with your data analysis, etc., it's very limited at this stage. But if you're doing a quantitative study, what are the main things that you're used to analyze your results with, etc.? And if you are a D student, there aren't D students in the class, but the key thing over with the D student is how are you going to make a significant contribution to the field of knowledge? So yes, a master's student, you are coming into existing gap, you are looking at a shortcoming. A D student is essentially you need to produce a new conceptual framework or a theoretical model or a new methodology, etc. A D student, you need to add significantly to the body of work. Okay. Questions? No one, nothing. Okay, Mkaziwe, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Kylie. Oh, it's me again. Firstly, I want to thank you for this workshop. And secondly, as I've said, I started my proposal last year, November. So I was kind of finished by the end of December. So as you were speaking now, I was busy making corrections. So based on my title, the focus on me was to focus on how AI technologies can be effectively applied to enhance and support strategic HR roles within the government sector. So I'm not sure now how to restructure my title
Okay, well,
by
what you
removing the
said,
word utility.
you shouldn't have to explain your title. Your title should explain what your study is about.
Mhm.
And then how are you going to measure that?
Okay.
That's the question. How exactly? So what are your research questions and what are the instruments or the data collection instruments that you will use to collect that information?
Okay, I have that. I have all of that, but
Okay.
it's just that now I was kind of confused whether
Because you
my
basically said to me, so so it would be perceptions on how AI can contribute, or it depends on what are you measuring people's perceptions and how it can be done, or are you?
Yes.
Okay, so then it would be perceptions on how AI could contribute, and but based on what, so understanding of what these could do, etc. So you cannot simply ask, do you think AI will help me to do my job more effectively, etc. That won't really say. So you need to measure those perceptions using a established model of technological adaptation or adoption, etc.
Okay.
And
Thank you,
in
Dr.
fact, it might be willingness to adopt might be more effective. So you've got to keep in mind what you're going to use to measure.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kylie.
And that applies to everyone, guys, because you've got to keep the end goal. You can't, I know you write it in a structured manner, but you have to keep the how am I actually going to do this job in mind as we go along. Okay, if there are no further questions, could I ask someone just to put off the recording, because I don't have the permission, believe it or not. Can you just, because I can't stop the recording.